Today is December the 12th, 2018. My name is Tanya Fincham, and along with me is Alex Bishop. We're with Oklahoma State University, and we're working on a project called Married for Life, and we're in Oklahoma, but we're in Edmond, aren't we? Edmond, Oklahoma, to speak with Don and Georgia Miller. So thank you for letting us come today. Let's begin with learning when and where you were born, Georgia.
I was born December the 11th, 1925 in Arkansas City, Kansas.
Okay, well, happy birthday a day late.
Thank you.
Okay, your turn, Don. When and where were you born?
Okay, I was born in O'Keene, Oklahoma on June the 2nd, 1924.
Okay.
And my parents moved from there to Enid, Oklahoma when I was 2 years old, and lived there through the rest of up through high school. We both lived in Enid.
Okay. So where did you go to elementary school?
In Enid, Jefferson School. It was only a half a block from my house.
Ah. And then high school?
High school was Enid High School, and
Graduated in what year?
in 1942, the greatest year that ever come on. Haven't you heard about 1942?
I have, but I want to know.
That's where all what do they call it? Well, it was all the people that went off to war, you know.
Was that year? Yeah.
I was in the first draft, 18-year-old draft out of Garfield County, which is Enid's county. And and then the class of 43, she'd have graduated in class of 43. We didn't even know each other at that time and didn't meet until after we got back from service, and then a friend of hers, or a friend of mine, and an acquaintance of hers, had her for a date, and we all went out to a dance, and of course I had to dance with her, but then she didn't date anybody else from then on, so that's how we got married.
Did you date anybody else from then on?
Oh no.
No.
Oh heavens no.
Just checking.
Yeah, that's right.
So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Oh, a favorite subject? No, I enjoyed bookkeeping, and I enjoyed math. I was always pretty good in that, so I didn't learn anything about English in high school, but when I got back home, I went to Phillips University, and I had an English course out there, and a teacher that was in high school had moved out to Phillips and was teaching out there, and that's where I learned what I know about the English language right there, because I didn't learn a thing in high school about English.
What had you planned to do in high school, like for a career? Had you thought that far?
Oh, that was too early. I had no great plans. The reason I went down to Phillips and then on down to Oklahoma A&M after the war, I had planned on being an architectural engineer, but that got stopped, and so we had to start make our way and living without it. So that's the way it goes.
Were you using the GI Bill
Oh yeah, yeah,
to do that?
yeah.
Where did you live when you were at A&M?
Well, I don't remember the actual address anymore, but it was on Duck, and where they're building where they're building the baseball park right now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next street over to the east there is Duck. and I built a house over there the summer between Phillips and fall class, and that's where we lived while I was there.
Oh. Is it still standing?
It was until just recently, and I understand that it finally got tore down just this past year when they took some more land in there.
Okay.
And we was over there about a couple of years ago, and it was still there.
It's in there.
So what years were you there at A&M? Would have been 1940.
In Stillwater.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's see.
40.
46, 47, 47, 48, 48, 49.
So you were already married by that.
Oh yeah.
By that
Yeah,
point.
we were married. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's back up. Where did you go to elementary school?
In Enid at Garfield.
At Garfield.
Was the grade school.
Okay. And then into Enid High School.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite subject?
Well, it wasn't English, I can tell you that. It was my worst one, I guess. Well, I was pretty good in Spanish in those days. They had Spanish. And I don't recall being any one subject being really important.
Well, had you thought about what you would do after high school?
Well, at that, I figured I'd go to work. It was not my plan to go to college.
Okay.
And so I was doing, the minute I got out, 3 days after I got out of high school, I had a job at the air base and did secretarial work.
Okay.
And my family moved to Enid when I was 9 months old. So that's how I got to Enid. And then while he went to school, I was secretary to Professor Wilbur of the architectural department on the campus. And I worked there till I got pregnant and we left and went to Amarillo.
So that's what you meant when life happened and you had to switch
Yeah.
gears a little.
Yeah.
She didn't say so, but she took shorthand. She was very good at it.
Well, I
and
was good at
she
secretarial work.
also was a
Typing and that.
speedy
both.
typist.
Yeah.
She could really type when she was.
But I did mostly secretarial stuff. Worked for the radio station manager and all those.
She still scribbles shorthand
Yeah.
today.
A little
You
bit.
see a note down there, and there's just
Some of it
it's
stays with
shorthand.
you a long time.
When she doesn't want you to know something, maybe.
Probably.
That works.
So what did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a salesman. My mother never worked.
Okay. And what about yours, Don?
Well, my father was a contractor. He was a carpenter and a bricklayer, and he built houses. And that's where I got my early start in being in the lumber business, is the fact that I went to work on the job as a carpenter when I was 14, and when I come back from the service, I decided that I'd rather sell it than use it, so I joined the lumber company. But I've been around the building business all my life. That's kind of how I got started in it.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I had a brother. He was 6 years older than me, and there was a girl. My mother had a girl and a boy that died even before my brother was born. I'm the last one in the family.
Okay.
But it was just he and I during my recollection anyway.
Okay. And how about you, Georgia?
I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And I still have a brother, and of course he's up about 80 now, isn't he? But he was 6 when I got married.
Oh.
My mother kind of spread us all out. And I have a sister that's 8 years younger than me that lives in Kansas City. So there's just the three of us left. The rest of them are gone.
Were you the oldest?
No, no. My older sister was 8 years older than me, and the other sister is 8 years younger.
Really
In
spaced
between, I
out.
had an older brother, and then I had one brother that we were just 14 months apart, and he was killed in a car wreck, and outside of Enid, and so there's just the three of us left.
Well, let's back up and talk a little bit about when you actually saw her for the first time. Do you remember your first impression of Georgia? The first time you saw her?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Well, yeah.
Out dancing.
That dance.
At dancing.
We
My
always
buddy
danced.
had a date with her, and so I had to dance with her. That's the first time I met her, right there.
Well, and your first impressions.
Well, what was your first impression?
I'm going to date this girl.
No hesitation.
So no hesitation. So in fact, I think I asked you that night, didn't I?
I don't remember that. There's lots of things you don't ask me that I
But
don't
anyway.
remember. And if there's a date up to it, I don't care. I had a cousin
She was a good dancer
constantly
too.
say, when did your mother, when was she born? Well, I don't keep things like that in my head. I don't. He knows dates. He's good at dates, but I don't keep
Do
things.
you remember that first dance? What kind of dance? Was it a slow dance, jitterbug? What kind of?
Well, kind of in between probably. It might have been a
Probably
Glenn Miller
did
tune or
that
something
a lot.
like that. Probably was.
Miller.
He was all the rage, you know,
Back in the
about that
40s.
time.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your first impression was of Dawn?
Well, I don't know that I do particularly. We had several. He had close friends, and I did, and we dated each other, which was interesting. And then I finally ended up just dating him. So I must have been impressed, or I wouldn't have quit dating the other guys.
Well, how long did you date before you proposed?
Probably
See, I don't remember
3
dates
months.
like that.
2 months or something like that.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick. I imagined. See, I got home right. I got discharged out of the service on the 10th day of December, and I get that date and her birthday mixed up all the
Just
time.
remember my birthday.
So, probably, I met her probably in January or February, and I think we decided we was going to get married in about April sometime, and we finally got married, or was it June?
Well, in March, when Emmeline had Susie, we were dating then and decided to get married.
Yeah, no, but, and I already asked you to marry me by the time they got back from Ohio?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
I remember that, but no dates.
we decided we was gonna get married pretty quick, probably a couple of months anyway, or no more, and then we set the date for August.
Any particular reason why you chose that date in August?
No.
No, just
Just
it just
suited,
worked out.
just suited, you know, no particular reason.
And did you ask her father, her parents for?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you asked my dad.
Yeah, I did.
And they liked you?
Well, I guess so. He said yes, says that's, yeah.
Well, he
that's
did
right.
eventually. My dad didn't want any of us girls to get married. I told my mother and she told him because he was upset with my older sister, any of us. I don't thought we were going to stay home forever or not.
Well, you were already over 18, so
Oh, yeah,
you really
and
didn't
out
have to have-
working and everything, yeah. Yeah, I was working by that time.
So on your wedding day, where did you get married?
In Enid, in the
In the parsonage.
parsonage of She was raised a Baptist and I was raised as Methodist, and she said, if you'll marry me in the church, then I'll go to church with you in the Methodist. So she become a Methodist.
Yeah, we got married in the parsonage.
See now how obliging she is?
That's a good compromise, I guess. Do you remember what you wore?
A gray suit with a blue blouse, I remember that.
Okay. And do you remember her in that outfit?
If you'd asked me, no, I don't remember it.
I got a little tiny picture over there.
And what did you wear?
Well, I had a suit on.
Yeah.
Had a suit.
Yeah.
Remember anything about the vows?
Well, you know, one of the
think our
good Baptist
parents were
preachers.
there. My
Didn't you?
sister was
Till
there.
death do you part. Huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
And where'd you spend your first night?
Well, I didn't own a car at that time, but my dad let me take his, and we drove up to Alva
Is that where we went?
and spent our first night in Alva, Oklahoma,
Yeah, I remember
at the
that.
little hotel there. And then we went on to Denver and messed around out in the Denver area out there for a week, and that was our honeymoon.
And came home and went back to work.
And what were you doing work-wise at that point? What were you doing as a job at that point?
Well, that was the summertime.
Did you go
I
back?
guess I was working down at the
Down at the store.
truss mill, wasn't
Yeah.
I? Yeah.
And then you started to school.
This lumber company that I joined, I was working for them.
Okay. You had income to support her at that
Oh
point.
yeah,
at
oh
that
sure.
point, yeah.
And I
Well,
was
plus
working, too.
I had the GI Bill to work with too.
What branch were you in?
Well, it was the Army Air Corps then. It was what would be the Air Force today, but I joined the Army, but I was in the Air Corps, which at that time it was under the heading of the Army generals. But later, you know, probably in the early 50s or something like that, they decided that the Air Force was getting so big and it needed its own command, so they took it apart, and then they had the Air Force, and then they got the U.S. Army, and they got the Air Force. So, but it's the same situation. Somebody asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I was in the Air Force, but it wasn't the Air Force then, it was the U.S. Army Air Corps.
Okay.
That's what they called it.
Do you remember the day you shipped out?
I do. I got on, well, see, I told you I was in the draft, you know.
Mhm.
And they put us on a bus, and there must have been 50 of us, 40 or 50 of us. And they drove us down to Oklahoma City and run us through and give us our physicals and to determine if we were soldier material. And the ones they decided to keep were sworn in that day. We got back on the bus and went back to Enid. And then 1 week later, we got on a train and that took us to Fort Sill.
What was the
And we
date?
went through what we call classification down there. And that's where they decided, because of the tests we'd given and what have you, that I was going to be U.S. Air Corps. See, because they wanted the cream of the crops.
Sounds good to me.
True. And from there, they shipped me to Wichita Falls, Texas for basic training, and they classified me as air crews. I was supposed to go to radio school and gunnery school. Well, the group that I was with, by the time they got through with us down at Wichita Falls, they shipped me to Las Vegas, Nevada to go through gunnery school. Well, I got to the gunnery school out there, and the day we were supposed to go start our 6 weeks class in aerial gunnery, I got the mumps. So they put me in the hospital and kept me there for 3 weeks. When I got through there, the class I was with, see, was half finished. So they put me in another class of guys coming through there, and I finally went through that. But when I got through that course, we kind of graduated, you know. They pulled me out of the ranks and kept me as a permanent party there on Las Vegas and made an instructor out of me.
Oh.
And what I instructed was aerial gunnery. That's why I wear these hairnets.
Yeah, they didn't
Because
make things on their ears.
We had the turrets mounted on the back of GI trucks. The top turrets and the ball turrets were on 17s and B-24s. And we had this firing range out there where they had 6 of them lined up in a row. And the instructor stood on the back and looked down in the top of the turret. The dome was gone, but the guns were there. And we fired at a range out there that had a track that run in a triangular shape and then comes across like this again. And it had a 34 Ford or some Ford frame, like a pickup frame or something like that, but just had a seat, and that's all it was. There was no top on it or anything else. And it had a place on 4x4s where they stretched a canvas on this thing that was big as the bed sheet, you know. And it stood up above the bulwark there that stopped all the bullets that went low. And we fired at this thing. We'd start that thing and run it and jump off, and it run by itself around this track. It comes back there. And as it come by, we taught them how to do it. And they had a gun sight on there that was, you had frames like this, and you had to frame it and follow the target with it. And when you did, it automatically led the gun enough to shoot and hit the target. Because it calculated how fast I was going, and it was called I think they were Sperry, made by Sperry Company. But our gun turrets were excellent gun turrets we had, even in that field. But that's what I did down there. And we'd get 4 sets of people in the morning and 4 sets of people in the afternoon, or two in the morning and 2 in the afternoon that would come. And besides the 6 turrets mounted on trucks, we had 20 caliber machine guns single mounted on a post on one side, and on the other side we had posts with 30 caliber machine guns that you fired handheld, and you did the trailing and doing it yourself. after they run up their 100 rounds of ammunition that they shot at it, each one had a different color on it. It had a color on the point of the bullet. And when it went through that canvas, it left a black mark or a blue mark or a red mark. So then when it got back in, we took that canvas and put it up on a deal here, and the old sergeant out there with a dauber who goes, he'd hunt the color and count every color on there and give the guy a score, see? So we knew whether he was doing what he should be doing. So that's how we taught him to shoot. But our people in those guns, in those aircraft, they shot down a lot of planes, the enemy, because we taught them how to do it. But that's what I did when I was in the service.
So did you go overseas?
Nope.
So you didn't have to go?
No, I never did.
So, do you remember your last
At
day?
the end of the war in December, they rounded up the guys that were left. Well, I got to the place that I got tired of doing that, and they wouldn't give me an advance. Of course, they said they couldn't give any rank to me because somebody'd have to die up there for me to get some rank, you know. So the cadet program was still in effect, and so I signed up for that and passed it, and they let me, and then they took me from there and sent me to 10 weeks college training detachment at Emporia, Kansas, which is Emporia State Teachers College now, and I went through that class there. And I was supposed to be a bombardier or a navigator, and I can't remember now which one it was they was going to have me do. But they wouldn't let me be a pilot because I failed the decompression test. You know, they put you in a chamber and create a vacuum like you're up at 30 or 40,000 feet, 30,000 feet. And of course you're wearing protection, you could breathe, but you have the change in the pressure. Well, when they let the pressure down in this tank, I got the bends. And since I got the bends, they wouldn't let me be a pilot, but they let me ride up there and hurt. I could be a bombardier or a navigator.
Then the war ended before he finished.
So anyway, the war was over. And they just didn't need us because they had more pilots, bombardiers, navigators than they needed. And what they did have left wasn't getting shot at, so they let them do their tour, and they sent guys like me home. So I was put in a group of other people in that same category, and we were sent home as surplus. So I spent 3 years and I come home to the PFC. So that's my Army career.
Come home by train?
Yeah.
On train?
I got out in Denver, and I took a train ride home, but before I went home, one of my friends lived in Salt Lake City, and he talked me into coming to Salt Lake City with him for a week. So I went to Salt Lake City with him, and we cruised around there while he was there, and then I finally got on a train, got home, and I got home on the 23rd day of December. I got out the 10th and got home on the 23rd.
And who picked you up at the station?
Nobody.
Nobody.
But I only lived about
Not very far.
3.5 blocks from the station, and I walked home.
And surprised your parents, or did they know you were coming?
Well, yeah, I don't really know whether they knew I was coming or not, but they didn't come pick me up. No,
Well, that was a nice
but
Christmas.
they didn't expect me to do it anyway. You know.
That was a nice Christmas present for them.
Oh yeah.
For you to show up.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's fast forward. You just got married, and then what? Let's talk about your early married days. Where did you live? What did you do? That type of thing.
Well, we got married August the 8th, and still in Enid, and I was working for this lumber company
And
part
going to
time, you
school.
know, while I was going to school.
You go to the
And
fellows.
the first 2 years, we lived there in Enid, and she still worked at the base. You still working out at the base, weren't you?
Yeah, for a while.
And I worked down at the
He built us a house.
truss mill, as we called it, and we built a house, or we got a house built for us at the corner of 16th and Pine Street.
We remember
And
that
we
one.
moved into a brand spanking new house when we were first married.
Indoor plumbing and all the works.
Oh, you bet.
You had to get the certain kitchens to put in a house that late, close to wartime. You didn't just get what you wanted, what you could get.
Yeah, we because we worked at this lumber company, Hot Point was a division of GE some way, and they were coming out with some metal kitchen cabinets, pre-done, you know.
Yeah, they were saying.
And they were offering, you know, there wasn't any cabinets made
Not like today.
during the war. There was practically no building going on during the war,
Right.
but at that time it was beginning to start up again. Anyway, they had this deal with the lumberyard, and they got a large size kitchen and a big size kitchen of
We
these
got the small one
Pre-
for our house. Yeah.
prefabricated or
Metal
manufactured
cabinets.
kitchen cabinets.
That was
And we got the small house set, and we also got a stove
yeah, you got the
and
appliances.
a
too.
refrigerator too, didn't we?
Yeah,
There wasn't any. I mean, I literally got the first refrigerator, I think, that come to that store after the war. Because it come as part of this deal. And, but anyway, that's where how we got started there.
but when he left Phillips, that's when we went to A&M.
Is that house still standing?
Yes.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's still there.
I wonder if the cabinets are still there.
Well, I doubt seriously if the
I-
people that bought it are
They
still
might be
there, for the
chipped.
simple reason they were older than we were, and
They lived
the
there
house
a
is
long
still there,
time.
but I doubt seriously if that owner still got it. But they lived there till they probably have died by now, because they would be like 130 or something like that, you know.
Oh,
Gotta
it
find
was.
them.
Yeah,
And then you built a house in Stillwater?
Yeah.
yeah, that one summer.
Well, you see, I grew up in this business. I knew how to do it, and we made prefabricated houses in this deal with this lumberyard that I had there. And all I had to do was put the foundation in, and that's just forming it up and pouring a little concrete, and you're ready to go. And we ordered the house. they hauled it over there on a truck. We stood the walls up like this, and then one day we had everything up there like this, and the windows in it. Then we had to finish it inside, sheetrock it, and tape it, and mud it, and do all the rest of that sort of stuff. It didn't take us long to build a house. And I knew I was going to do it, and I was working over there in the summertime anyway. And I was living in an apartment that belonged to a friend of ours.
He went home
he
to
was,
farm.
he was a farmer, and he didn't stay over there
He went
during
home
the
to
summer
farm.
because he was always at Wacomas in the summertime taking care of his land and stuff. But so we sublet his apartment during the summer, and during that 3 months that we were over there doing that, I built that house, or got it and put it together. And we lived in it there for, like I say, a year.
Not very long. It
Yeah.
didn't seem like.
You didn't live in Vet Village, which was the.
No, I didn't live in
which
Bentonville.
was, yeah.
Now,
Uh,
the girls I worked with.
We had some
on
friends
the
out there,
campus
but
did.
I understand it was an interesting place to,
Oh,
to live in.
Terrible.
you talk about interesting. They had a 16 by 16 house
It wasn't very big.
made out of plywood. That was Red Village.
Not good insulation.
That's crazy.
But the professor I worked for was over all the building that was going on the campus connected at that time. And his office was in a Quonset hut. And I was up here, and all the students in the architecture school were at these huge drafting boards and drawing way back. And his office is the very back of the Quonset hut. So to talk to him, I had to go back and forth. But they probably had at least 2 sides of these students drawing and doing things for the campus, I guess.
Where was the Quonset hut? Do you remember where on campus?
I don't. Richard used to tell us where it was.
Where's what?
Where the Quonset hut was, where I worked for Professor Wilbur.
Well,
It's
I
gone
don't
now.
quite
It's
know
not
where
there
it is
anymore.
either.
Yeah,
But
my
it
cousin
was-
knew where it was.
It was west of the stadium. There was kind of some bare ground out in there, and the old.
Everything's so changed.
I've tried to place that in my mind, but where it is now, I'm satisfied there's some building. That student union building is probably sitting on it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably
that's
where it was.
is too.
Is
I'm thinking that during the time you were there, then it was the library was in Williams Hall. Does that sound right?
well, could be. I never went to the library.
Had turrets. Do you remember? No, don't know. Didn't go to the library.
Well,
That's where the English comes in.
Okay, so once you left Stillwater, what?
well, I went back to work, and I went back to work for this same lumber company who had they were putting in a place in Amarillo, Texas called Mobile Homes. And the mobile part of it was they built manufactured houses and put them together complete. They started inside the building and come out of the building on a track. They was completed inside out, painted and everything. And they put them on house moving vehicles and hauled them out there to where
In the country
jobs
or
were.
whoever bought them.
And
Yeah.
since I was been in it before and knew all these people, then they just had to have me. And plus my dad he was kind of working for him about that time too. And he built the building that the thing was in. And I was going to be one of the managers and work out there. So we did that, and once we got the thing moving, then I got down and I was doing the sub work. I was going out to the location and putting the concrete foundation in and getting it ready, so when they got there, all they had to do was just move the thing, set her down on there and fasten it up to the hook plumbing, and had the plumbing and everything in it.
Oh.
All I had to do was hook the electric wire put the box on the side of the wall and hook the wires to it.
And you were a new dad at that point.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We just
Very
had the
new.
one.
Yeah. In fact, I
He's
had been
about
out there working
68 now.
before, but I was home when it come.
Yeah.
When our
I had
son
it-
got
I had
there.
it in Enid. Yeah.
Our son David was the oldest, and he was born in Enid, but about 30 days later we were in Amarillo.
Oh gosh.
Or did we wait 30 days?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
About 30 days. But we
Yeah.
moved a lot between then and having the other kids, and we lived in Oklahoma City twice.
Do you have more than
We
one
lived in
child? You have more than one child?
Oh yeah, 3.
Two boys and a girl.
Your boys and girl.
My daughter lives in Seattle. And the other one's here. That's why we're here.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
So how many houses have you built for you, the two of you?
Just those
Built for
two.
her?
Just those two? Is that all?
Well, that I just actually built to live in,
Yeah,
specifically
like the
for
others.
her, was just 2.
Two.
The first one, and then when I was out in Amarillo, we just rented, because I knew I wasn't going to stay out there very long. I was going to be someplace else. And so I was out there we were living in Amarillo about 3 years. And then I started on my tour. I went back to Enid on weekends. So I went down to the store down there where there was a district manager down there. And he was, of course I knew him from being around working, you know. So I told him I was ready to do something besides what I was doing. I wanted to run a lumberyard. He said, okay. So it wasn't very long, just a very short period of time there, a month maybe. They moved me to Cushing, Oklahoma, where I was to learn the books, learn how to keep books. And in those days, the books were kept at the lumberyard, including everything, you know, by hand. And then when I got it done, we shipped it off to our general office, which was in Kansas City. So it was necessary, and they had a bunch of yards where there was, the manager was also the janitor and
Anything else?
everything, you know. He usually had a driver and a yard man or something like that come and work clothes, and we was expected to come and halfway decent, you know. So I wore a suit and a tie for years and years. Summer times we didn't, but
Yeah.
winter times we did. But I was down at Cushing about 3 or 4 months, was it? That's about all it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's all.
And then for another little short jag, I went to
Weber Falls,
Weber Falls.
close to
Weber
Lumberyard.
Falls,
all
Oklahoma,
we
which
did.
is on the Arkansas River, coming up through there.
He just
and,
closed the lumberyard.
There was a lumberyard there in that town, and it would belong to Dascom Daniels, another small chain that our company bought. It was one of 12 yards that they had, and it was a two-man yard. It should be a one-man yard, but you couldn't have a one-man yard. You had to have two men. If one person could live down there, you could probably make a living out of it, but you got to have two to run a lumber yard, at least two. So we closed it.
Wasn't a very.
And I went down there and I spent about 90 days down there, but we moved, literally moved down there and rented a house and lived there in
They had one
Weber Falls.
store. Everything was in that store. And that was a part of the land where they picked cotton, where they grew cotton and picked cotton. And those people, I'd walk down there and they would come in that store and buy pop and candy. Their clothes would just be filthy because they'd work, and they'd take little kids with them. It was an experience when you had a child of your own, but it was dirt roads. I mean, it was a wide spot in the roads, what it was. We didn't stay very long till we moved.
No, it was only about 90 days.
Yeah, but not
But
much
when I
fun.
got through there, they moved me to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, they did.
And you know where Byron's liquor store is downtown at 23rd and Broadway?
No.
It's a great big.
You're
huge
not
liquor
familiar
store.
down here at all?
I've been down here, but
Have you ever heard of Byron's liquor store?
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, it's a huge liquor store. Well, anyway,
On Broadway.
here's the intersection. And down here, Byron on this thing was a filling station. And Byron had it, but he was also a bootlegger.
In those days.
And
So it comes around good.
I know
That's
this for a
right.
fact, see,
Yeah. But the yard was
over there.
across the road.
But on the north side of that street, here's a railroad track right here.
Okay.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
planing mill right here, which was a wholesale thing. And then on the very corner up here was what they call Yard 1. And that's where I went to work. And I spent about 3
Yeah, there's
years
a
there.
road going right across it, way up high.
And that's
Not anything like
where I really got indoctrinated into the lumberyard business. But when I left there, they sent me to Aldous, Oklahoma, where I was the manager of the yard, and then from there I went to Norman as the manager, and then I went to
Yeah,
Kansas
we
City
did
as
over
another
there.
manager, and I'd be about 3 years in each one of those places. Seemed like every 3
We
years
had
we got
kids along
moved.
the way.
About like being in the
This
army,
son
you
was
know.
born in the
Yeah.
city, and our daughter was born in Altus. The boys are about 3 years apart, and she's about 6 after that, yeah.
Well, when decision time about moving was happening, was it a joint decision, or you just come home and say, "Guess what, dear?
We're moving again.
You know,
Yeah, that's about it.
and the kids didn't.
They
like it.
transferred me again.
Oh,
Where are we going this time? Well, we're going to here and there.
Yeah,
But after,
we just went.
when I got
It's
through
all
it
right.
to Norman, they sent me to Kansas City, and I was a manager down there, and I was there. We lived up there about 3 years. Then they had a shake-up in the company up there, and they had an older gentleman in the company that had been a district manager, but they now didn't have the district anymore, and they didn't want to let him out, so they demoted me in a sense. They sent me from there. I was the actual warehouse manager up there. They sent me back to Oklahoma City down here, a sales manager. So I spent about 3 years here, living down just off of, I can't think of it, just off of Reno, down there in that warehouse district down there. The building's still down there, but of course that's somebody else now.
Is that when we went to Amarillo? I mean to Wichita? Is that when we went to Wichita?
Well, when we left at Oklahoma City, then that time we moved to Wichita, and that was the last time we moved. I spent almost 12 years with them at that store.
In the same house.
And then we
moved here.
parted ways.
I lost count.
Well, no, but 30,
That's a lot of times to move.
38 years we lived in that house.
I quit moving. I quit moving when it was down there.
I was ready to move back.
well, where do you consider home if you've moved so much? Where do you consider home?
Well,
Enid.
we actually lived in Wichita, Kansas for 38 years, straight years. But only 12 of that years was with the company this lumber company. Because we parted ways when I was 55. And
We had a business for a little while, for several years.
yeah. But then I went into business for myself up there for 18 years.
Before we moved.
And that got me up to where I was about 75 years old. And I decided, well, I'm about tired of this. So I retired again. And I didn't do anything from about 96 till about 05. Except being retired. But you know, I run out of money. I didn't think I was going to live this long.
No.
So I decided I'm going to have to do something different. So anyway, my son that lives here decided that we didn't need to live up there by ourselves in Wichita, because he had lived in Great Bend and around, and I have another son that lives in Newton, and and our daughter lives in Seattle.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anybody around there, just immediate. So he thought he ought to move down here. So he says, well, if you move down there, I'll see that you get a new house. Well, I got my new house, so we moved. And
That would have been 05, 06?
yeah,
Somewhere in there.
we
Yeah.
moved down here in December of 05,
About
so
13
we've been
years.
here a little over 13 or 14 years, something like that.
But you never know how long you're going to live.
That's right.
And I have outlived 5 close friends in Wichita, and 2 of my classmates, 3 of them, since I've been here. They have all died since I left there.
So what do you think the secret is for your longevity?
Don't know. I wish I knew.
Maybe moving so much.
And I'm not gray.
Oh,
I've got gray, but I've never turned completely gray, and I don't understand that either.
Well, she didn't have a gray hair in her head until about 2 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago I started.
so you didn't stress her too much moving?
Maybe he did that. I hadn't thought about
Well, we
that.
tried not anyway, but,
Well, while you were working, were you working too by that point? Well, who would discipline the children? Who would be, if the children
Well,
needed discipline?
my work was, always had she did all that.
I've always
didn't
been
have to do
home,
much.
except when he was running lumber yards. If somebody took a vacation, I'd go in and help, and I'd take Robert with me. He was good. I'd just take him to the lumber yard with me and work. But I never actually worked through all those years. After I
No.
had the kids, I stayed home.
Well, you moved too much to work too, I guess.
Well,
part of it.
Yeah, she didn't have a permanent tie any place. Plus the fact, I didn't really want her to work. She didn't want to work, and my mother never worked, and I just said, well, hell, that's normal to me. Mom stays home.
And nobody
She has
ever
her
likes
food-
to
she
leave
has
their
her supper
kids.
ready when they
You
get
know,
there.
that's true. Yeah.
Well, do you still work today? You still work? You're still working?
Yes, in fact, I worked this morning from 8 to 1. I work down the Lowe's.
5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
At the Lowe's.
Mhm.
So,
And
still in the lumber business.
I've been, well, yeah, that's what got me started down there was, and see, I've been there almost 10 years now, doing this.
Yeah, he worked
And
a
when I
while,
started,
quit,
I
and then
thought,
went
well,
back.
you know, I'm gonna, when they built this one over here on Kelly and Covell, I said, I'm going over there, they're about to get that thing ready to open, and see if they'd hire an old guy like me, you know. So I walked in there, and right there in front of the door, they wasn't even open yet, but they had a desk set up there, and the HR person had been sitting out there, and when people come in, they'd talk about working and what have you. And she said, yeah, says, we hire retired people. Usually they're, they only work part-time. We can't work them full-time, but we work them part-time. I said, well, that's about all I wanted to work anyway, just part-time. So I agreed to work. I told them I'd work from 8 to 5 days a week, but I didn't want to, no Saturdays or Sundays or nights or anything. I didn't want to do their schedule, you know, they rotate. And everybody that works in there on a full-time basis rotates. They'll come in at 6 this day and work till 2. Next week they may come in at 2 and work till 10. And sometimes it's on Saturday and Sunday and all that sort of stuff. I said, no, I don't want that. I said, well, we understand. I said, most of our part-time guys just work weekdays. So I said, good, and so I went through their process, and then all of a sudden, I was about ready to find out, you know, and she said, well, I'll tell you, we can't handle you down here. They said that they'd hired all the people, full-time people they wanted. We're not hiring any part-timers now. But I think I'm gonna send your file down to the HR person down at 2nd and Bryant Street down there. Says, I know him, and I'll send this down there to him. I think he could use you. Well, by the time I got down there and talked to them, the 30 days was up, so I had to go through that process all over again. But I finally took the trouble to do it and went through the tests and everything. And so when they agreed to hire me, he said, well, I think I've got just the place for you. He says, what do you know about plumbing? And I said, well, I know where it is and what it is, but I said, I don't really
That's
know
where it is.
a lot about it. I've been around the building business all my life, but I'm not proficient in plumbing. He says, well, I think you'll do though. He said, I'm gonna put you in the plumbing department, in the rough plumbing department. Now, rough plumbing, that means I sell all the parts and pieces for all the broken stuff that needs to be fixed, and the irrigation stuff, and the big PVC pipes, and the drainage stuff, and all that sort of stuff. That takes in aisles, half of 12, all of 13 and 14 aisles. Right in the middle of the store. But
He teaches lots of old ladies how to fix
I've
their
lived in
plumbing,
there.
I'll tell you.
I've got to be a pretty good
A lot
plumber
of
since
them.
then, and I've never done any of it, but I understand it. So
Well, all this work, does it put a strain on your marriage today, or has it ever put a strain on your marriage?
Yeah.
I can't see that it has. Except sometimes when
I
I
don't
go
like getting
for
up that early. Now, that's the only strain I have. We get up at
You know.
almost at 6 o'clock every day, yeah.
You know what she's always said? She said, I didn't marry you for lunch.
Yeah, that's right. I don't
In
like
all
the
the
15
years
months.
I've worked,
No. I
up
never
until I
fixed them
moved down
much.
here, all the years
Yeah.
I worked, I never had lunch at home. Because she didn't want to fix lunch.
And I still
And
don't,
I
but I do
says,
it. Some.
Okay, that's the way you feel about it, I won't come home for lunch.
I'll either make my own, or I'll just work.
That's right.
So when we
Take me
come
out.
down here, and sometimes now, you know, I never can leave exactly at 1 o'clock.
No,
Because I have customers that come in there, and oftentimes it gets busy about that time because a lot of people are on their vacation, on their lunch hours and stuff like that. They want to go by and pick up something to fix their faucets or do something for some other reason. And so I can't, sometimes it's kind of late when I get home for lunch.
2:30.
What are you thinking?
Sometimes she kind of upset with her. Well,
I usually just say, I think you just about forgot to come
did
home.
you finally decide to get home?
Yeah.
Do you ever worry about them?
No,
No.
no, I really
Nah.
don't. As he left for work, if the ambulance went by, I might wonder if he had a wreck in this town. But, no, not usually.
So when he's at work, what do you do?
I take care of this house. And that's emphatic. I've told him I am the maid that does the laundry and the ironing and cleans this house and takes
Yeah,
care
and I'll
of
tell you
it.
something else
That's
too.
what I do.
She irons
I
my
iron his
jeans.
jeans before he goes to work.
How many pair of jeans do you get that you get ironed?
Nowadays.
None these
Well, I
days.
might have to come down here.
And my kids don't either. My kids don't either. But I've always done that. I don't iron everything, but a lot of things I do. But I do his jeans.
So
Well-
you prep him for work, then, is what you
Yeah,
do.
she prepped me for work.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm always glad to see him come home, even after all these years. You know, if we didn't get along. And once your children leave home, if you don't have anything going on, you're in deep trouble.
Sure.
You're not going to stay together. You've got to have some kind of a life when your kids leave home. And ours have been
Well,
gone a long time.
that's a kind of an unfortunate thing because,
We have 14 great-grandchildren.
yeah, when we moved down here from Wichita down here, it solved one problem, but it created another one.
Oh,
because
to be back.
we spent so long up there,
It's really
and
hard.
I was so active in my business, and I
You
was
miss your
very active
friends,
in the
that's what you
Masons,
miss, yeah.
and you know, we did a lot of stuff, and
Life changes.
when we
you
moved
have
down
to
here,
have
we
years.
left all those friends up there.
Yeah,
Well, unfortunately,
we've outlived
all of
them.
our ones that are really, really friends, most of them are dead.
Yeah, most of them have died.
Have died since I've been down there. I tell you what, that's, you know, it's just getting awful. I don't have any friends anymore.
You have her.
Yeah, that's
I've
me.
got her, but that's it.
I'm still here.
That's it.
Well,
Yeah, she had to leave all her friends too, and that, you know, she had 5 girls that she lunched with
Yeah, regularly for
regular,
years
and
all the time.
I had
Even ones
lunch
younger than me.
every day, just about with somebody.
Yeah,
because she wasn't going to make it for you,
But
right?
I just wasn't with her.
not if I could get out of it. I have him take me out a lot at noon. I go down to meeting. We eat out.
Well, when you first retired, was it an adjustment having him underfoot?
No, I've never gone through that,
Didn't have-
ever. I have never.
Well, I wasn't underfoot.
If he comes home from lunch, he's in there at that computer. He's not keeping me company. And sometimes I'm doing things in the afternoon that I could do in the morning when he's gone, but I'll do them in the afternoon. But I've never had that where you hated for him to be home and interrupting you or anything. I went a lot more in Wichita than I do here. But and my kids are here, but they all have a life. And we have 5 great-grandchildren here, and most of them 2 of them are in high school. They were born here when we came here. And 2 of them, one of them goes to North this year, and the other goes to Memorial over on 15. And they go from 2 to,
Yeah, we moved down there on
Out
the
of
1st of
college.
December,
yeah,
and the next day we went down and visited our granddaughter
yeah, she had
and
a baby.
our new great-grandchild the next day after we got here.
And darn.
But if we get together, say we did Thanksgiving, and our grandson, his wife was from here, so her parents live here, and our daughter-in-law's mother lives up here on the other corner, about a block from us. And there were 23 of us for
Wow.
Thanksgiving dinner when we all get together, 5 of the kids.
That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes it nice.
We don't see them much, other than if we get together at Christmas, we will. And we'll probably drive to Wichita at Christmas time. And our grandchildren, with their little ones, will come home to our sons, and we'll drive up there and see them.
Well, how do you two, after all these years of marriage, how do you define love?
Well, I think mostly it's how you treat each other. If there's any love left between you, it's the relationship you have and how well you treat each other. And, we still say please and thank you when we do something for each other. And I think that's, if it's not there, you're not going to stay together. You don't care anything about each other. And I don't think you go into marriage with the idea of it not lasting, because most people probably don't. But you have to work at it. You have to work at it. And, as I've always said, it takes a sense of humor. When somebody says to me, how have you been married so long? I said, it takes a sense of humor. That's what I always tell them. And it does. It does. You can't lose it.
Well, can you surprise each other these days, or do you finish each other's thoughts?
Well,
I don't know that we finish each other's thoughts too much, but he surprises me if he remembers that my birthday is on the 11th and not the 10th. He told me happy birthday on the 10th the other day. I said, no, tomorrow is my birthday.
Well,
I got up.
And he's done that for years.
The 10th must have been a very salient date when the war was around in your life.
Yeah.
Well, does he remember anniversaries?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah, well, I remember anniversaries.
Do you have a routine for anniversaries? How you celebrate?
We always go out.
Oh, we always go out to eat. That's about it.
Yeah.
There's no big presents and that
No.
sort of stuff. We got everything we need anyway.
And, yeah, we're long past this business. of
What can you
what
buy
kind of
that you
gift are
don't
you
already
gonna get me?
have?
We don't do that anymore.
You know, it's just.
I try to tell my kids not to give us Christmas gifts. I say, I'm trying to throw things away. I don't need anything else.
Well, what's the best gift you ever gave each other?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Well, probably the biggest surprise she ever got is on our 40th wedding anniversary when I gave you
Oh,
that.
yeah, he gave me that ruby drop. Yeah, he
A
did.
nice ruby with some
Yeah.
little diamonds around it there.
He gave me that.
And
I
really
remember.
surprised her with that on her 40th wedding anniversary.
And you didn't forget.
Huh?
You didn't forget that time.
No, he didn't forget that time.
Well, I just figured it was about time to get something for her.
Gosh, there's a lot of time between 40 and 70 something in there.
That's almost a whole nother marriage. It's time for another gift.
That's right. Yeah, I don't need anything, that's for sure.
Well, what,
Some of my friends or guys down at the store, you know, they say, well, how long have you been married anyway? I said, 72 years. With the same woman? I said, yep, same one.
Often that's not true, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, what keeps the spark alive, you think?
Well, I guess it's, like I said, I'm glad when he comes home at the end of the day's work. If you enjoy each other and the things you do together, well, I suppose that's what does it. If you're tired of each other, you're not going to spend any time together if you get out of it.
And then, like you said, the sense of humor helps.
Oh,
helps.
yes, you've got to have a sense of humor. There's too many things you have to laugh about.
Have you ever disagreed?
Oh, yeah, a
And-
lot.
And how did you work through those disagreements? You know, were some strategy or some
No,
way?
just talking to each other. Just talking to each other. And he's pretty even-minded. It'll build up and I'll say a lot sometimes. And he really seldom says much back to me. You know, he just lets me cool off. But things that are important, you talk about together. No surprises there. You've got a lot of things you have to work on together.
Any regrets over these 72 years?
No? I don't think so.
Advice for the next generation?
Well, you need to enjoy each other. If
That's-
you don't, for goodness sakes, don't stay together. If you don't enjoy each other and like each other and have respect, just like you would somebody else, then all those things are important.
Well, when your children got married, did you set them down and say this
Give them some advice.
did give them some advice?
No, if you would talk to them, they would tell you that we have given them a very good example in marriage.
They what now?
They would tell you that we have given them a very good example in marriage
Oh,
and how we treat each other. And even when we're there or if we're in a group, or anything. It's how we treat each other, and it's made a difference in how they've you know, once in a while they have problems and you have to help out, and they appreciate that, what you do. So
Do you have any advice if you could give some younger person, the next generation?
Well, I'd have to know what the circumstances were where I could give advice. I give a lot of advice,
yeah.
but
On plumbing and lumber.
yeah, it's usually about how to work. Excuse this. This
For the
younger
young people
generation
don't
that's
know how to
around
work,
here
that's a
don't
big
know how to
thing
work.
with them.
They don't know why am I working? Well, you're working to make something pleasant for somebody else. That's why you work. You don't make work to make pleasant for yourself. You need to work to make pleasant for somebody else. That's how you get your joy and what you're supposed to do. Under the right set of circumstances, I will occasionally tell one of those people that are down there, and it's only the ones that I really like. When I see them doing something that I don't think is the right way to do it, because I've been in business for 72 years also. See, even longer than that.
Oh.
So it comes second nature, and we're in business to make other people happy. That's what everybody's in business for. And no matter what they're doing, they want to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You buy clothes to make yourself happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you do. So if you're not performing the way, if you do something that's going to make the customer upset, and nothing upsets me more than somebody goes down, we've got bundles of pipe sticking up in a deal, and they come in 5 or 10 in a package, and they got tape around them, and just because they're lightweight and they're strong enough to set them up in there, you got to take that band off up there because the customer can't get it down.
He works for the customer. You can tell
And
him
some
that.
of these people don't get that until I have a talk with them. Then they understand.
Somebody
Well,
may
yeah,
get
okay,
in one of these
okay,
days.
we'll do that. We'll take the band off and put them up there one at a time. But they want to get through, so they go, whoop. That's all they're interested in.
I don't know
doing.
if that's laziness or common sense.
Right.
So,
So we know his pet
But-
peeve.
you know, it's difficult for me to give somebody advice that was, for example, how they do their own life, because I don't know the other person's wife or spouse or whatever it is. I try not to do that.
You need to set an example to anybody for anything.
No, some couples have pet peeves, something that bothers one but not the other, and
Yeah.
vice versa. Do you
Yeah.
have any of those pet peeves with each other?
Oh,
Yeah. You know what
yeah.
mine is, don't you?
Huh?
You know what my pet peeve is, don't you?
Which one?
Right down the corner. That one right through that door right there.
We're getting in
His
trouble.
office is just awful, just awful.
I'm a piler.
Oh, he is. It's just.
You're a piler,
I
she's
should
an
keep the door
organizer.
shut
Yeah.
all the time. It is so bad.
So,
He's
Well, part of the reason he is, I'll give him credit, is lack of time. Because he works with stocks for our kids on the computer. And so he has to follow that every day, and what he's doing and buying and selling. And between working and that, cleaning up the desk is not important. You know, there's not enough time.
Well, it isn't at that time, but it gets, when it gets to be about 9:30, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, he goes to bed early.
It's a good word.
He gets up early.
Somewhere along in there, I need to go to bed.
I'm impressed that you use the computer.
But I'll get up.
Beg
early,
pardon?
but I'll
I'm
get up.
impressed that you use the computer.
Well, you know, funny thing, I have had a computer since the days of DOS. I had a computer when they cost $1,500.
Yeah, we've always
For a
both had
computer.
one. We both have a computer.
One of the early, even before they got to, even before they got the Wi-Fi or the internet thing and all the rest of that.
Yeah, he's had.
Back when they were really, first one I had was that
Great big.
stood up that high, you know, just a huge box of
Yeah,
stuff in it, and it wouldn't do what it did here. Amongst some friends I had up there, we had an investment club. And one of the guys in the club had retired from Boeing, the airplane manufacturer. And they were into computers in the early stages of stuff, and he knew how to run things and make programs and do all this sort of stuff. So, and I wound up being the secretary or the record keeper for this investment club, and we'd meet once a month for lunch. And the first one we had was NTIC, that's Noontime Investment Club. Isn't that original? And then the next one, that was very successful and we kept it for a while. But we had some guys from the east side of town and some guys from the west side of town. And all the east side of town, they kept the NTI and went that away. And the guys that lived on the west side of town, we had, what was after NTIT?
I don't remember now what you
Well,
told
anyway,
me.
it's another investment.
Too. But you had one.
But a similar set of initials like that. And we just got some new guys and got together and had our own club over here, and they did their thing, we did our thing. So
There's always somebody teaching you something about your computer.
anyway, this guy, he developed a system so we could put all this information in a computer. Well, he figured out the program, and then I could put it on my computer, and I did that. And oh boy, was that saved lots of time, you know, and everything. So I've dealt with computers, but I'm not a genius.
No, there's always
And,
something wrong. Our daughter took computers.
I don't
and
adventure in
English
it either.
in college.
I
We got a
work.
master's. And when our computers don't work, we call her and she can pull our computer up on her computer out in Seattle and talk us through it, and we fix our computer. That's how we fix them. We don't have to take them somewhere.
She
talks
could
us
sit
through it,
out
and
there with her mouse, and you just
She'll
sit there with
say,
your
"Don't
arms
touch
folded,
it.
and you
I'm
just see the
moving
mouse
it."
going around doing all this sort of stuff.
But it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you just, so much you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really been a boon to us on that score, because we got somebody that knows how to fix them and get us out of trouble when we don't know what we're doing.
I'd rather have her in town. like the other girls have their mothers and daughters. But she loves it there. She'll never come back. She's married now. And she just flies back and visits it once in a while. So, but you know, with your phones and the computers, you're close to everybody anyway. You know.
How do you think technology's changed your marriage over the years, or impacted it?
Well, I
Probably
don't
made
think
it smarter a
technology's
little
had
bit.
anything to do with it.
Has it made life easier for the two of you, or do you think, in terms of?
No, we each do separate things on them. You know,
Mm.
he's got the stuff serious stuff that he does. And
You have two separate ones?
Oh yeah, she
Yeah.
has her own, I have one. Oh yeah, yes.
But I
You
know
each
what
need
my
your
kids
computer
are
time.
doing because I'm on Facebook. My grandson put me on there. But because of Facebook, I can tell you what my grandkids are doing. I know when they're out of town. I just, they can write you back and forth, but I've got one granddaughter that she's on there all the time. And I know what they're doing just because of that. I don't put things, I comment about my grandkids if they do stuff. I write notes like that, but I don't put something on there myself. I don't have anything to put on there. But most of them put stuff on.
Put
a
too
lot.
much, don't they?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
they'll tell you everything they eat and do.
And about their kids, I don't like it when they're little, they put stuff on about their kids. I think that's a mistake. But they don't ask me, so I don't tell them.
Well, when history's written, what do you want to say about you two as a couple?
We made it.
We made it, yeah. Yeah, the Terrell advertisement?
Yeah.
The Terrell ad, what I'm talking about? There's an old couple that
They're older than
they
Ron
look
and
like
I,
they're kind of settled in their ways too. I get ticket her, and he says, "Well, how long have you been married?" 73 years.
Yeah,
And I get a tickle. I get a joke tickled out of that every time I see it. I almost say, "Well, so am I."
Well, most of the time you don't think about it.
Is there any?
Well, it just kind of snuck up on us, as far as I'm concerned.
You don't think
People,
about age till you say it out loud.
People
When
are
you say it out loud.
that I don't
for a lot
know
of years.
never
Right.
take me for much over maybe 70 to 75.
But we feel good. We're not having to.
Sometimes when they're about 80, they'll say, "Well,
And I use
yeah,
the cane
you
a
might
while,
be
but I
in
don't
your
use
80s
a
or
walker or a cane, and they'll ask me if I still drive. I said, "Well, how do you think I got here?"
Is there a secret to being married so long? You've told us a little bit about some of those little secrets, but what's the secret to staying married for 72 plus years?
I think you have to enjoy each other.
well, that's it."
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just.
enjoy just.
I'm very happy with her. She just.
As
we
long as I'm
enjoy each
feeding,
other,
he's
so-
As long as-
okay.
And we've been doing it for so long,
Three times
it's
a
kind
day.
of usual,
Yeah.
and comes
But-
second nature.
But we'll sit and watch some television, but most of the time, I'm in there and watch what I like to watch. He may be watching football, or something. Or you's playing,
Yeah,
I'll
we
watch.
gotta have two
Yeah, I'll
screens,
watch
and we
those
gotta have
things. But
two of everything
I
that
won't
way,
watch
'cause
the others.
she's an addict. She's a TV addict.
Yeah, I do. I watch a lot of television.
What's your favorite show?
I
Well,
watch
how
the
many's
Hallmark
on?
Channel
This
a
is-
lot. I watch the Hallmark Channel an awful lot. Yeah, I don't watch soap operas, and I don't think game shows are fun. Those, to me, they're not. But I mostly like movies or plays of some sort.
And Tanya, you have to ask too. Couples often have a song I don't know how do you put that question, but do you have a favorite song or a song that defines you too? Like some people couples have the first dance they ever had. Do you have a song?
We really don't have one, do we?
I can't remember.
We've
If we
usually
did.
got music in the house in some form or other, but
Well, back in the day, it was I'll be home for Christmas, but that was during World War II,
Well,
and you would have been.
we
you weren't
enjoyed
together at that point.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just it's the fact that we enjoyed the music. You know, now when we lived in Wichita, I had
favorite
a
singers.
sort of a stereotype system that I could play big records on, and we had boxes and boxes of the old
A lot of
Vinyls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
records, and I even had headphones that I could really listen to it.
Yeah, my brother did.
So,
And what was
but
your,
down here, it's a different situation. The way we built the house, it was a house that we bought, but I remodeled it a little.
Yeah, but we had a
And,
den and a living room.
we had some
It
built-ins
seemed like you
next
had
to
more
our
room
fireplace.
that way instead of all over
Our
the
fireplace,
place.
well, we didn't have a fireplace, and I put a fireplace in it.
Yeah.
And I just, where I had a window, I just took one like that and
He
made
laid the
me a
brick on the
little
fireplace.
thing stuck out there and put the fireplace in there and built a rock face on it and a raised hearth out of brick and we could burn wood in it, you know, that sort of thing. But on the sides, we had some bookcases and some more stuff for stereo equipment to hide it.
We don't do that to this house.
But we
don't.
didn't have it here, and we didn't. I didn't want to go to that extent, so we don't really have a stereo thing anymore. But I used to sit and listen to.
All our favorite singers are old singers.
Yeah, singers and
Like who?
I love Ferrante and Teicher
Yeah, he
piano.
likes.
You know,
I like Johnny Mathis and
I
Barbara
could listen to
Streisand
those
and
two guys play the piano.
Rosemary
for-
Clooney, which is an old one.
those
Really
smooth
good.
voices?
Yeah, I like all that. And right now, I kind of wish Tony Bennett would quit because he's really talking. He's not saying. He's been on a lot lately. He's been on TV.
Well, probably one final question I have is how important has church been or faith been to your marriage? Some people mention that as an important part.
Well, we don't go now. It's kind of like been there, done that. We've always took the kids to church, went to church. I'd teach and do all that. After we moved here, my brother was living in Shawnee, and I always said my Sunday was for him. He'd drive in every Sunday morning and we'd have breakfast. And in the last year, he moved to Georgia, where his daughter is, because he'd had a stroke and it was time for him to be around his grandkids
I gotta get out.
and
I'm
the
getting
others.
cramp in my leg.
And then I had a cousin who lived close to me, and he died 2 weeks ago. And he was a lot younger than me. But he was over here all the time, having coffee or calling me every day and everything. And he was big into Stillwater. He was in the fraternity up there, very active in it, president of this, and up until about the last year, he was going back into things with his fraternity, and he could tell me what was in the campus, you know, because he remembered it, but I don't remember a lot of it he did. But
Well, then my last one is, do you have anything you want to say to each other on the record, for the record?
Nah,
no, it's over.
it's over.
We should clarify what's
Well,
over.
it's over.
What's over.
After 72 years?
They may have heard more than they wanted to hear.
Oh, you mean
I
the
stand up
interview's over?
so long, I come and sit down and I get
bet.
a cramp right back there in the back of my leg sometimes. It just
I bet
sets
you
me on fire.
used to
Well,
standing.
then I'll say thank you for letting us come. It's been a pleasure.
Well, you're just
Thank you
welcome.
for
and-
coming. It was nice meeting all three of you.